This is the Crowd Crux Crowdfunding Podcast with Sal Briggman, where we cover everything you need to know to launch a successful crowdfunding campaign. We speak with proven entrepreneurs who've raised money from the crowd and want to teach you how to do the same. Stay tuned because we're about to reveal how to launch your dream project with your host, Sal Briggman.
Before we get started with this podcast episode, I want to take a second to introduce you to my friends at Fulfillrite. If you need help shipping out your Kickstarter or Indiegogo perks or rewards, Fulfillrite is the absolute best company for you. I've been working with them for a while and I can vouch for their services. They make it dead simple and take all of the headache out of shipping out all of those boxes, all of those orders to your backers and your customers. If you want to check them out, go to fulfillrite.com at fulfillrite.com. What up, crowdfunders? Salvador Briggman here. Welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. On this show, we talk about crowdfunding, we talk about Kickstarter, Indiegogo, how do you get funding, how do you actually stand out above the pack. And my goal in starting this podcast was actually not to necessarily get to storytelling of these entrepreneurs or anything like that. I just wanted to keep my finger on the pulse when it comes to the techniques and the strategies that are working today. Because every once in a while, I'll find out about a new resource or a new tool or a new way of doing things, and it just kind of helps keep me, my finger on the pulse, aware of the different strategies out there to get funding to these different campaigns. So you can sort of be a fly on the wall and you can listen to me converse with people who have raised 6 and 7 figures on Kickstarter. Like, these are literally entrepreneurs that have raised $500,000, $1 million, smaller campaigns as well, $70,000, $50,000. It really doesn't matter because there are so many different types of entrepreneurs and creative types in the audience. You might be trying to raise money for a book, a film, something nonprofit related, maybe a new gadget or a gizmo, a fashion item. My goal with this show is to tease out these different proven ways to actually drive traffic and get funding for projects. And to do that through questioning, to do that through understanding the mindset of these different entrepreneurs. And hopefully at the end of this podcast, you can start taking action on some of those findings, some of those things that I've unearthed. I'm kind of like a guy, if you back in the California gold rush, sifting for gold, sifting through dirt in order to get to those nuggets of gold. You basically just get to take that and apply that to your own campaign. So that's kind of free of charge. But I also really enjoy it. One of the things that I've enjoyed so much more in the last, I'd say, year or two is my focus on storytelling, my focus on actually understanding the person behind the campaign, the person behind the business, because that plays so much into your results and your effectiveness. To hear some of these different stories, the fact that this person is putting together a project that for whatever reason they experience this problem all their life, or they're putting together a product and they have venture capital funding on one side, or other entrepreneurs, they're borrowing money, or this is the first time they've actually launched a business in their life. They're having to deal with all of this at once. Or even things like a kindergarten teacher who comes on my show and she talks about this new way that she has of teaching kids to learn faster. This is what keeps me going, and the stories, I think, in particular, are what make it so freaking relatable. Makes it so relatable, and I think my implicit goal, I didn't really realize this getting started, was I want to show that success is out there, that success is a possibility for you, and quite frankly, there's nothing holding you back. There's no more excuses. The education is out there. You can cobble together the money for a launch. You can create prototypes. You can get attention. Other people out there just like you are raising money on Kickstarter, and there's no reason why you can't do the same thing. So I think you're going to like today's episode. A lot of great content, a lot of great tips and advice that you can apply to your project. The other thing I want to talk about before we get started, I've always getting questions on like, hey, Sal, I love the content that you put out, but I just have a few questions for you. Or, hey, would you mind looking over my campaign? Would you mind looking over my video? What do you think about advertising these images, etc.? And when I was first getting started, I would love to help people for free, but as it went on, it started 6 years ago in 2012, as time went on, it was just overwhelming, and it's so many emails, so much outreach. So I ended up saying, hey, yeah, I'm happy to help you out. I'm happy to give you advice and all that kind of stuff. But unfortunately, that's something that now I have to charge for. And it's also now, as I've grown and as I've experienced more of what goes into a Kickstarter launch, as I've heard so many different cases and so many different stories and seen these things put into place, seen these different videos. I've seen so much that now it's actually an asset. And I have so many people that come to me for coaching, and after the fact, they're like, dude, that was incredible. Like, thank you so much. That's great. We're going to do this and this and this. And oh man, can you remind me of doing this? And wow, like it's just awesome, because not only am I providing you with a new strategy by looking at your different components and assets of your campaign, can I not only rework things, I've obviously done coaching with live campaigns as well, and showing them how to raise even more money with what they're doing. But it's a win-win situation, because really my fee for coaching is like nothing compared to the value that I bring, and also the results that it has in your actual funding meter and the amount of money and revenue that you generate from that. It's a great win-win synergy situation. And I think that all business that is profitable and good for both parties, it's always like that. It's always a win-win situation. You're always adding value to each other. And oddly enough, a lot of my students will end up doing things like adding me on my personal Facebook, or they'll be emailing me literally like months and years later, updating me on things that are happening in their life. So it's a really interesting relationship. And I originally, when I was getting started, I didn't really think that my coaching students would end up being friends of mine, but it's kind of cool to see the different ventures that they're involved with in the future and the ways that I can help them going forward. So if you're interested in that and getting personal one-on-one coaching, and also me apply everything I've learned to your campaign, you can go to this link at crowdcrux.com/coaching. That is crowdcrux.com/coaching. Just give me a bit of information about your campaign, submit your inquiry, and I will contact you as soon as possible. Guys, you're going to love today's episode. It's coming up right after this. What up, crowdfunders? Welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. I'm talking with Oleg, and we're talking about his Indiegogo campaign, Jammy, the super portable digital guitar. This campaign has raised over $175,000 on Indiegogo, and he's learned a ton from doing this project that he wants to share with you. Oleg, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Could you tell the listeners a little bit about what this product is, who it's for, what they can use it for?
Yeah, absolutely. So Jammy is a backpack-sized guitar for active hobby guitar players who just want to experience their instrument anywhere. Unlike any competitors, Jammy provides a realistic playing experience and fits in a regular backpack at the same time. So basically, it has two parts, which the longest one would be 17 inches long, which can be detached from each other. And easily attached back, so you can just plug and play. And with that size, you can fit Jammy in a backpack, in a suitcase, take it with you on vacation, on a business trip, or just when going outside.
Very cool. And it also it plugs into the laptop or the computer, right?
Yeah, you can use it as a so-called MIDI controller for composing purposes, but you can easily just plug your earphones in and just enjoy guitar experience.
Nice. So where are you located right now?
I'm actually located in Kyiv, Ukraine, and the engineering team that I have here is also with me. We have manufacturing setup in China, and business development office in the States.
So is crowdfunding really big in Ukraine, or is that something new that you sort of discovered as an entrepreneur?
No, we had a lot of campaigns during past years coming from companies sitting in Ukraine. I guess one of the the biggest one was PetCube, like a pet camera for taking care of your pets when you're outside. Those guys are also from Ukraine, and they have a pretty successful Kickstarter campaign a couple of years ago.
So you've seen some of the other entrepreneurs from where you are. They raised some money. I guess that kind of got you interested, in Indiegogo. What did you then start to do? I imagine you started to research, started to learn, started to figure out how to launch one of these.
Yeah, actually, we didn't rely on the crowdfunding as a main source of our funds because the development of a complex product would probably require much more funds that Indiegogo can provide, Indiegogo backers. So we used Indiegogo mostly as a marketing instrument or like instrument to validate the market and see if there is any potential and any interest from the market.
Mm-hmm.
But we started to research Indiegogo and crowdfunding in general, I guess, year after we started to work on the prototypes on the engineering side of the project.
Okay. So you were going to use this to get attention, to also get a bit of brand penetration, I imagine.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So what was the first thing here when it comes to a launch? I mean, raising $160,000, that's no easy feat. Doing that on Indiegogo or any other crowdfunding site, even that in sales, that's really ambitious. What was sort of the first step here in putting together and trying to launch this project?
Well, obviously, we started from building a community up front. So we wanted to have people interested in the product before we'll actually tell the world about Jammy and we'll launch crowdfunding. So I'm talking basically about the email list that usually campaigners build before the campaign. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to have that attention and then basically convert those people into our first customers, which then can drive their friends and basically drives the attention from other sources.
One of the things also I think that we don't really talk about very much in the show in terms of Indiegogo is the actual analytics that you can gain access to, and that can sort of improve your decision making. What did you do when it comes to like the analytics of your campaign and how you use that with your actual funding strategy?
So that's I would say that's super important to be very sure about where your traffic is coming from, how people are converting, to be able to optimize the campaign page and the sources, so you will get the most of what you can get from the crowdfunding. In terms of analytics on Indiegogo, it has a set of features that help you to understand some of the sources of the traffic which comes to your campaign page and stuff like that. But what is much more convenient is that you can actually add your Google Analytics account and Facebook account to Indiegogo page, basically link them together. So by that, you will be able to see a much more structured and detailed data in your Google Analytics account and Facebook accounts as well.
How would you then use that data?
Well, by a lot of means. Basically, first of all, we wanted to understand which sources we have. So basically from where people are coming to the page and how much they're converting there. So we saw a lot of traffic sources. We run Facebook ads, for example. So we were trying to optimize the content in those ads and targeting for those ads to achieve the better acquisition cost. So basically to drive the pre-orders on the as less cost as possible for us.
Okay, and in terms of the Facebook pixel, what would you use that for? Like, why would you want to install that on your page?
That's pretty handy when it comes to retargeting. So basically, a lot of people who see your campaign and come to your campaign page from a lot of sources, they might not be ready to pre-order right now, and then they close the tab in their browser and they might forget about the product and the product name and won't return ever again. But with Facebook Pixel, you basically can track those people. Basically, Facebook tracks them, and you can just use that built audience to retarget them on Facebook. So you can show some discounts to them in their Facebook page, and they can convert from that advertisement after.
Okay, so this is kind of like a way where if someone comes to the page, maybe they're a little bit interested, but they get sidetracked. They're watching TV or they're just checking their phone, and for whatever reason, they just forget. It's kind of like a way to remind people of what it is that you're offering and the value of that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Cool. Well, I was looking, you sent over a really great blog post, and everyone out there, I'm going to include this also when we put out the podcast, just a really killer article that breaks down week by week where your funding sources are coming from, where your revenue is coming from. It's really impressive. So I'd love if you could just tell the listeners a little bit about that and sort of how that also grew over time.
So basically, at the beginning of the campaign, like during the first 2 weeks, the most important source of traffic for us was the email list that we have built up front the campaign. So we basically send emails to those people saying that we are on Indiegogo, you can pre-order our product and support us there. So that was pretty strong channel, but it's quite limited because you send a couple of emails and that's it. So you won't convert much more than that. After that, after those first weeks, you would need to boost your campaign with other sources of traffic. In our case, we had distinct three more distinct sources of traffic. First, which were already just covered, is the Facebook ads. When you basically show advertisement to people and trying to convert them from Facebook. We also had some PR and media reach, organic reach from other platforms, like, for example, YouTube, when people reposted our videos and they will be able to see us and then follow to the campaign page and convert there. But in terms of the amount of funds that we have received, amounts of money basically that we have raised, the biggest channel was the organic audience of Indiegogo.
Okay. So
basically, people just come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People just sort of discovering you through the Indiegogo marketplace, or did they send out like an email blast to their users?
So there are two types of like so-called featuring by Indiegogo. First one, yeah, exactly. That's the featuring on the homepage. So basically, people who are coming to Indiegogo.com, they will be able to see your campaign and then back your campaign from there. And also, Indiegogo has a daily newsletter which highlights several campaigns at a time. And it comes to around a million mailboxes around the world, of people around the world who are organic audience of Indiegogo. So if you get your campaign link in that email, it gets a lot of exposure and a lot of people will be able to see your campaign and then pre-order your product. So that's a super efficient and basically free channel for you to use.
So I got to ask you, how actually do you get into one of those email blasts, or how is it that you get featured by Indiegogo, that you get more visibility? Do you have any advice on that?
Yes. So on that side, basically, Indiegogo is interested in you raising a lot of money because they basically take the commission from all funds raised on their platform. So they are with you on one side with you in business terms. So the good idea would be to reach to Indiegogo team before actually you're launching your campaign, to meet them at least virtually, to make them learn about your product and your plans, and get some support from there. So there is a thing called promotional package. It's kind of informal agreement that people from Indiegogo would propose to your campaign. It will sound something like this. So Indiegogo will provide at least 2 spots in the newsletter when your campaign raises X amount of money on the platform. Or if you achieve some particular goal at this period of time, you will get the featuring in the email. And stuff like that.
So they'll tell you this, like when you're talking to them, or?
Yeah. Basically, they would propose because that's interesting for them as well, because they would have more money from that coming.
Interesting. So this is kind of like a behind the scenes conversation that's happening. They're like, hey, if you hit this amount of money, or if you raise this amount by this date, then we'll help you out.
Yeah, that's right. And also they will sometimes they feature campaigns. Just because they think that campaigns are performing well, and they might reach more funding amount if they would get a better exposure. So that's so-called Indiegogo factor, which you can compare it to Google search rank algorithm, which is nobody knows how exactly that works, but people have an idea of the parameters that play a role in that.
Yeah, so, definitely. And I just want to underscore here, looking at the different funding breakdown, like while Facebook ads and also organic did play a significant role in your campaign, a heck of a lot of your funding is coming from Indiegogo itself. So that relationship really paid off in thousands and thousands of dollars in revenue for your company there.
Yeah, I guess it's around 40% in total that came from like organic exposure on Indiegogo. But I want just to highlight that it won't work unless you will get the first exposure and first engagement from any other sources. So you have to raise at least a couple of thousands from the beginning, from the very start, using your email list or other sources. Mm-hmm. So then the campaign would pick up, and Indiegogo team would believe that it's a good investment of their resources in terms of featuring, and then it would be just boosting.
Yeah. There's a lot of other great stuff that I want to cover here today. But before we move on, I just want to quickly ask you, what's been your favorite part of running this project? What's been the most rewarding aspect for you?
I guess that moment when people who pre-ordered the product that started to emailing me, or we had some customer development calls with them, and those were real people who actually wanted the product to be with them, to use that product. And when we talked about how they would use it, how they would take it on the vacation, or how it will help in their life, that was really inspiring for me and for the team to learn that actually the problem that we are solving is a real problem, and people are willing to invest their attention and money to actually solve that problem. So that was, I guess, the most inspirational moment in the campaign.
See, this is really cool, because the other thing that I love about this is when you're just starting to learn guitar. I've always wanted to learn guitar, and I haven't gotten around to it yet. But when you're starting to learn guitar, you probably are going to suck like a bit. So you can actually just plug this into your computer, and you can listen to how you sound, and not necessarily everyone has to hear that. Or absolutely, you can take this on a trip, and you're in the middle of you're in a hotel or you're in an Airbnb, and you don't have to risk bothering all of the other guests there. You can just play this, and it's not super loud,
Yeah, that's right.
So that's what I like about it. I think it's really cool. Everyone, I urge you guys, go and check it out. It's right now, it's in demand, so you can actually order one, Jammy. So we'll include that as a link in the show notes here. I had to interrupt this podcast episode because I want to introduce you to my friends at The Gadget Flow. Their product discovery platform reaches 22 million people per month. They've helped more than 5,000 crowdfunding campaigns thus far, and they have a social media following of more than 700,000 followers. If you want to gain access to their marketplace and list your own product, you can go to thegadgetflow.com/submit and list your project today. One of the other things that caught my eye was this concept of free shipping, because I think that all too often online, when you're buying a new product, it's really the shipping that can kind of make or break that decision for you. What was your experience like here when it came to shipping, and how that sort of impacted the conversion rates you were seeing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Indiegogo is actually quite tricky in terms of the shipping, because when you see the price of the product on the Indiegogo page, it just shows you the actual price. But when you go to the checkout page and enter your shipping details, Indiegogo will show how much you actually have to pay on top of that to get this product shipped to your door. And it might be up to $50 for some countries. So that's, as you said, it might be a break at this point. So we considered that we might actually propose the free shipping for the people who basically entered the checkout page, but then dropped off because of the shipping cost. And it would be still cheaper for us than showing the new ads for the new people and then converting them from the Facebook, for example. So we saw that the retargeting ads shown to the people who drop off from the checkout page were performing a lot more better than the ads which were shown.
I was looking at some of the data you sent me. It's a 60% dropout rate from that page. People, hesitating and being like, I don't know, it's shipping, that sucks. And then it looks like when you made this change, it was 3.6x shipping yielded that when you included the free shipping.
Yeah.
So that's a phenomenal change right there. I mean, that can lead to lots more in terms of funding, and it's also a really easy change to make, I think.
Well, yeah, it's quite straightforward. You just with the Facebook, you can easily do it in a couple of clicks.
Yeah, definitely. So I think also when it comes to shipping, that's something that just it really you don't think about this until you launch one of these campaigns, and then you have to actually deal with, oh, I have to get this product out there to people. Oh, people are in different areas of the world. Like you start to think about it a bit more when you're actually live versus beforehand.
Yeah.
So going through this strategy, you have email list, you have Facebook ads, you have organic. What do you think about when it comes to approaching communities online? When it comes to trying to garner interest organically in some different communities, whether it's on Facebook, Google Plus, LinkedIn, etc. What are your thoughts on that?
One cool thing that we did during the campaign, we found that in the middle of the campaign that we can actually get use of that. So as you said, there are a lot of communities, for example, on Facebook, which feature a lot of crowdfunding gadget-focused products, like, for example, Tech Insider or Fatherly or other communities. They just usually they make a video compilation of the products that are out there, and they're cool. And they usually do that for free. So what we did, we just pitched those communities with our promotional video and some product description. And they were posting videos about us on their page, and the organic audience of those pages was able to see us and then follow to Indiegogo and back us. With that, we got around 3 million views on Facebook only, combined from those communities, and a lot of traffic came from that source on the campaign page as well. So that's a great free way to get interest from those sources.
Okay, cool. And it is, I guess also when it comes to reaching out to communities is also understanding how to pitch it or understanding like why people would want to use this product, et cetera. I think that's kind of hard too, because like you as a creator, you're making it probably for one way, but other people might use the product in different ways, I imagine.
Yeah, I think that might be tricky at some point, but at least in our case, it was pretty straightforward. So our positioning and value statement is super straightforward. We say that we solve the portability problem of regular guitar, which are bulky, and everyone can understand that. And our guitar is backpack sized. So that's a super straightforward value proposition, which you don't have to be a guitar player to get that. So that worked pretty easy for us.
Did you do anything in the way of actually gauging maybe some of the ways that people use this guitar, whether that's like surveying or anything like that?
Yeah, so actually that was really helpful for us, not only for running Facebook ads, for example, but for many different reasons. I would highly recommend for people running a crowdfunding campaign to do like a quick survey of the first at least 100 or first backers that you will have, to better understand, first of all, their demographics. Of course, you would have like some ideas about your future customers before you launch your crowdfunding campaign. But once you actually get people who actually paid for your product and they are really interested in that, you can validate it and adjust a little bit. So you can learn the demographics of those people, like where they're living, what the age they are, stuff like that. But even more importantly, you would learn how they are foreseeing themselves using your product. Mm-hmm. So that would help a lot to like shape the creatives for your ad campaigns, shape the positioning and the messaging that you will drive across all of the channels.
I'm speaking to the crowdfunders in the audience who have already launched a Kickstarter campaign, or have actually even successfully run a campaign. And the reason is, I think you will understand this pain point most. And that is, when you finally do raise money on Kickstarter or Indiegogo, the hardest part is not collecting the cash. The hardest part is shipping out all of those perks and rewards to your backers. It is a nightmare, my friends. It's a lot of spreadsheets, it's a lot of headache, and it's a lot of stress. That's why I recommend BackerKit. If you have not heard of BackerKit, they help you collect surveys, they help you collect data, and the entire fulfillment process is just so much easier and so many less spreadsheets when you use their software. You can check them out at backerkit.com and use CrowdCrux for a special discount.
So what was like your role, would you say, throughout this campaign and this project? How would you define your role?
Well, my primary role basically is a product manager. So I'm responsible for defining the features and making the prioritization across those features. But when we started the crowdfunding campaign, we didn't have any marketing person in the team. So I was actually basically running the campaign by myself. And we had a lot of people in the team helping with that. We had a copywriter and a creative manager who helped to make the product as most appealing as possible. We had a designer, of course, who helped to create all of the digital assets, and a lot of support from the technical engineering team as well, of course.
Mm-hmm. So for this product, do you have an established company that this company has been around for a long time? Is this sort of a new product line, or is this the entirely new startup company?
I would say it's a bit of an average, because our core team, engineering team and design team, was on the market for a couple of years now. I guess it's more than 5 years. We mostly worked with other companies, with other startups, to help them with hardware engineering and setting up the production, because we had a lot of experience with that area. But at some point, we decided that we wanted to create our own product and be basically focus on that. That happened like a couple of years ago. That's when we started to work on Jammy.
So how is this going to change your company going forward? Because you did mention you wanted to do this project for the media attention and also the awareness and brand penetration. How has this project changed, I guess, your vision for the product and what you're going to do in the future?
Well, first of all, product-wise, we did a lot of decisions after running the campaign and seeing actual people who are interested in the product and who are willing to pay basically for the product. After some customer development with them and some additional researches, we adjusted the feature set of the product, how we want to message the value proposition of the product and stuff like that. Besides that, it helped us to gain confidence in that there are actually people who are willing to pay money for solving the problem of which we are solving. And of course, for the future, once we hit the market and once we will be available, for instance, on Amazon or any offline channels, to get there, we'll have to get some initial attention and some initial community, and that's how we would use the community which we built on the Indiegogo. So we already have people who bought the product and who will use it, who will give a feedback, and that would be a super supporting milestone for us going forward.
Yeah, and I think that's really that validation. That just also confirms that you're not wasting your time. This is something that people want to exist. This is something that people are enthusiastic about, and they clearly see that you are offering something that's different from everything else out there.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's what inspires the team, and that's what actually gives us the strength to move forward with the project.
Well said, well said. So I invite everyone listening to the show, go and check out Jammy, Jammy, this super portable digital guitar. Like I said, it's on Indiegogo in demand. And also they've raised now over $175,000. Wow, that's pretty awesome. So this product, I kind of want to look more into it because, I did want to learn guitar at one point, but it looks pretty neat. It's clear you guys have done your homework. Looks like you've put together a really quality, solid product there. So congratulations on that. Do you have any other advice for the entrepreneurs in the audience, the people that are just now starting their projects? Anything in the way of what they should be doing, anything you would have done differently, anything like that?
I would recommend, I guess, only one thing that I think everyone should do when starting to build an innovative product. Is that you have to define the problem that you're solving and talk to the people to whom you're solving that problem as early as possible to learn actually from them what should you build next. In case you won't do that, you might risk that you will build something that nobody wants and nobody needs. So my recommend is to talk to your customer as early as possible.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on the show, sharing all that great information. And also, we're going to be including a blog post that you have written, which is very comprehensive. I mean, goes way more in depth than here. It goes all into the nitty gritty, some of the different charts that we mentioned, where your funding came from, all that kind of stuff. And also, one of the techniques that we actually didn't mention on today's show, you're going to find in that article. So I urge you, go and check out the show notes for today's podcast. You can learn a bit more about that. You can also learn a bit more about Jammy. But Oleg, thank you so much for coming on the show, sharing all that great info, and we'll have to have you back.
Glad to be here. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Again, my name is Salvador Briggman. Thank you for joining me here on today's episode. And if you have not yet, go and check out some of the other episodes I have out there with the Crowdfunding Demystified archives. Now, guys, I want to say something here, and I think that so many of the entrepreneurs in the audience, you're doing an amazing job. Like, I have to give you an applause. I have to give you a pat on the back, because the reason why most campaigns are not successful is because they don't prepare, is because they're not educating themselves, is because they're not learning the best practices and putting that into effect. But at the same time, at a certain point in time, I think that we're almost overeducated. That's kind of a weird way to think about it, but I think that sometimes people, particularly very intelligent people, get to this point where they know so much. They know so much about how things work or what they have to do, and really what's left is just taking action. Taking action in terms of putting together a strategy, putting together the project, putting together the prototype. Really, just the homework of it is complete, and now you got to take action. And this is sort of the part of the process where I like to get involved with creators, because that's really where I can have a big impact. And of course, I love to educate. I love to teach. That's something that's a bedrock of my business and something that I just personally love to do and enjoy. But at the same time, it all comes down to the execution. It comes down to the people that you're surrounding yourself with. It comes down to your teammates and your team members. So if you've ever wanted me to join your team, if you've ever wanted to get my personal one-on-one feedback on your video, on your pitch, on your rewards, on all of that kind of stuff, and also to guide you going forward, what should you be focusing on? What marketing channels should you be spending money in order to acquire customers? How should you be structuring this launch? And what are you doing wrong? What are the critical mistakes that you're making right now that you might not be aware of? I love to help and coach entrepreneurs and share with them some of the things that are a bit more tailored for their campaign. So if that sounds interesting to you, I'm going to give you a link where you can go here, you can submit some information, give me a bit more information about your campaign, about your funding goal, the type of product, like all that kind of stuff. And if you're interested in my one-on-one coaching, you can then submit via this link. So that link is crowdcrux.com/coaching. That's crowdcrux, crowdcrux.com/coaching. So you just go to that link, enter the information. It's basically a survey. Tells me a lot about you in terms of your ability to execute your budget, your funding goal, what you're shooting for, all that kind of stuff. Just hit submit, and then I'll get back to you as soon as possible. So again, that link, crowdcrux.com/coaching. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I appreciate your time and attention. Again, my name is Sal, and I'll see you next time.